There are some people who we just click with. Today, I want to explore whether we can use how that feels with those people to connect more deeply with others. Hey everyone, welcome to Holiness Connection. I'm Sonja. Today's video is in my series Deep Calling Deep, which is a series for this channel that explores how we can connect with others in our world deeply. So in the description or thumbnail for this video, I'm probably going to use the term soul connection, which some of you may have heard. I like it because it's a very broad term for connections where we feel like we click with others. I do think, I'm not going to get in this video into like what the meaning of that is, like their purpose, things like that, although it's really fascinating to explore. So I might do that in another video. But there are definitely many kinds, right? And so that's why we have lots of different terms for them. I like soul connection because it's broad, but kindred spirit may be another word for it too. And I learned about the concept of Anam Cara, the Celtic soul friend, when I read the book Anam Cara by John O'Donohue, the late John O'Donohue. And I just wanted to read you just a little bit about what he said, one of the things he said about it. So he said, in the Celtic tradition, there is a beautiful understanding of love and friendship. One of the fascinating ideas here is the idea of soul love. The old Gaelic term for this is Anam Cara. Anam is the Gaelic word for soul, and Cara is the word for friend. So Anam Cara in the Celtic world was the soul friend. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit here. So with the Anam Cara, you could share your innermost self, your mind, and your heart. This friendship was an act of recognition and belonging. And I'm going to sort of focus on that part of it because he's clearly talking about, being able to talk to the person deeply too. But I want to explore the part that's like that feeling of recognition and belonging for this video. Because that's, if I'm talking about someone you don't already feel that with and aren't close to, you wouldn't already be talking to them in that way yet. And so, or maybe never, right? But I want to explore how we can still feel this deeper connection with others. And so what I want to explore today is if we have had experiences of that and we have people in our lives who are soul connections or anamkara, is there a way that we can use that feeling and that sense that we get into with them and use that with others in the world as well? So again, I want to focus on cultivating that feeling, the deep sense of feeling, of home, of connection that you might feel with some people in your life, whether you call them a kindred spirit, really close friend, whatever you call that person, a soul connection. And if you can feel into that when you're imagining being with or connecting with, even from afar, the person who you feel the connection with. So you can get into that. You might be able to just drop into it by getting into an imaginative space there and feeling your connection with that person. But if it's helpful, you could also think of it as almost like a different space or dimension or level that you're going to because it has that deep feeling, right? And so sort of thinking of it as almost like a space you're connecting through that has a different quality to it could be helpful for feeling into what that between you-ness or that's linking you is, because right, it's like both kind of the space between you that you're connecting through, and because it's the space that's connecting you, it's the connecting space itself too. So I guess if you think of it as steps, you can think of it first as dropping into that connection with someone you're already feel a soul connection or feel like is your anamkara, and whether you're doing it imaginatively and just able to drop in right away, or whether you sort of feel into it, conceptualizing it almost as a space or a different level or dimension. And once you've done that, and so try cultivating that, like maybe when you're not just naturally feeling it around that person. And then step 2 would be when you're around someone else and you want to try using it, someone who isn't that kind of a soul connection, see if you can sort of drop back into that feeling space. And then from there, you can, step 2, sort of see if you can sense them in that space, this other person. And it might be good to, I want to add here that it might be good to start with someone possibly who's close to you but doesn't feel like as much like you click with them, or sometimes that can even be a little more fraught, right, because we have experiences with those people already. Or maybe you want to start with someone neutral who you don't really know yet, but you don't feel anything like any sense of negativity or resistance towards. And then you might, as like a further step, try it with someone who you notice you feel some natural resistance to, even if you don't know why. But to get back to it, whoever the person is who you're doing it with, you've dropped into that sort of feeling space, however you've done it, imaginatively or in that feeling into to another level or dimension or space. And then you're sort of sensing for this other person who's not a soul connection of yours. And then step 3 is, even if you don't sense them, because I'm not sure we always would sense them in that space, and it's something I'm just starting to explore myself too. Or maybe we wouldn't sense them right away. And I don't know how much their own, I think some of it may be that their own awareness is part of it, right? And that they would be doing it simultaneously. So I think it's still possible, though, to be more connected on that level with them just by being in that level. So I think a way to think about it, if you don't sense them in that space, is to think of it more like this is you connecting to that deeper space, or connecting to spirit, or however you want to call it. And you can think of it as sort of holding that space, or like having that space available to them. And I want to say also that I think you can do this if they're directly in your presence. So you're sort of in that case, if you're actually talking to them, it's almost like holding 2 levels of awareness at once to some degree. But you could also just do it if someone's nearby. I don't think it has to be necessarily that you're directly interacting with someone to do this and to try this as a practice. So I think the overall thing I'm saying is, whatever ends up happening in this exploration, I like to think of it as really honoring that sense of connection to other and the oneness that can be found there, which in a lot of ways I think of as that soul connections are an instantiation of, which is kind of another way of saying that they are sort of these very specific, great examples of that oneness that we really are all part of. So I'd love to hear if you try this and you want to let me know about your experiences in the comments. And if you'd like to have more videos about soul connections, let me know that too.